is the savior and the messiah, and he should make decisions for everybody on the planet Earth because they're too stupid to know what to do for themselves. Messiah. Greetings. It is I, the Great One himself. Oh yes, here we are.
You can scream and shout with all your might.
You can scream, shout, whine, cry, snivel, piss, and motherfucking moan.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight.
You can shove your opinion up your ass. That way Obama's cock has something to keep it company.
Either you are wrong or I am right.
Don't forget the ever-present, the most likely third possibility. You are wrong, and I am right. There it is, my friends. That's just how we roll around here. I've been doing this podcast for 10 fucking years, and it's amazing how I continue to be right. It's amazing how I continue to say things, and they're true. Because I am the Great One himself, and this is stating the obvious, the weapons platform from which I launch the cruise missile of my intellect that hones in on and destroys. Blows their little motherfucking asses up. It's like a fucking fireball from the sky. Comes in, blows up your little statist asses. Motherfucking statist seeking cruise missile. And yes, we do have a 50 caliber machine gun we use to mow down the survivors. Yeah, I know. Mowing down the survivors is a violation of the zero aggression principle. Remember I've said before, killing a statist is not like killing an anarcho-capitalist. A statist does not adhere to the non-aggression principle, therefore the non-aggression principle does not apply to a statist. So killing them is perfectly okay. If you think I'm wrong, well, ask the government. The government kills statists all the time. They kill a few ANCAPs here and there also, but mostly they kill statists. All the brown people in Afghanistan, Obama's killed with flying robots. Pretty sure they were all statists of one type or another. I am the Great One himself, Cynical Libertarian Society founder. 10 years of podcasting, fuck you, cynlibsoc.com on the interwebs. In the control room over there, the lovely and adorable Randy. You can send us email, it's God, that's dog spelled backwards, God at cynlibsoc.com. And of course we're on the Twitterverse at cynlibsoc. Talking about the verse. Before I get back and finish talking about the article by Roosh, blog post by Roosh, whatever you want to call it. Blog, I hate the word blog. The word blog sounds fucking retarded. Randy, should I have issued a trigger warning so that anybody who's offended by the use of the word retarded would have known? So here's your trigger warning, guys. If you're offended by anything at all, this podcast is probably going to fucking trigger your little fucking ass. So there, you've been trigger warned. Captain Capitalism, Aaron Clary, released a video on his YouTube a few days ago in which he addressed the fact that one of his YouTube videos, in which he talked about inferior people and superior people, had been flagged on the YouTube as hate speech and had been removed, and now he is limited to uploading videos 15 minutes or less. And of course it sort of raised the specter of, was YouTube going to remove his account and all this other stuff. And of course there was the incident some time ago where Stefan Molyneux's entire YouTube channel was temporarily removed from the YouTubes. And I bring this up because, first of all, as you may or may not know, I do has a YouTube's channel for the Cynical Libertarian Society. I don't put a lot of effort into it, and this is exactly why. Because just like there's a Facebook page for the CLS, I don't put really any, I shouldn't say really, I don't put any effort into it. I auto post stuff there. Say there's a Google Plus page also. Things just auto post. The only social media account I have that I put effort into is the Twitterverse. Because I like Twitter, and Twitter's easy to use and it's convenient for me, and it suits me. So that's why if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me in the Twitterverse. The Google and the Facebook and all the other stuff, I ignore. The YouTube, it's there. I do attend to the YouTube as far as comments and stuff like that. I do not respond to any comments on the Google Plus or the Facebook. And all of this is the reason why. A while back, I did a podcast. The title was something along the lines of "The Internet makes us less free, not more free," or "More Internet is slavery," or something like that. And on the YouTubes, some jackass fucker left a comment, something intellectual. It was along the lines of, "You think the Internet makes people less free? You're really stupid, LOL." The sort of the typical trolling that you get on the YouTubes. And this is why, and I've talked about all this before, I want to talk about it again for new listeners and also because of the Aaron Clary thing. This is why the internet, as much as you stupid fuckers out there, okay, and then I'm listening to an episode of the Cato Daily Podcast, which is hilarious because if there's some of you out there who actually don't know what the fuck the Cato Institute is, I would hope you're not that dumb. Or maybe I shouldn't say dumb, not that unaware. Even anyone who's even reasonably versed in politics has heard of Cato and Brookings Institute and Heritage Foundation. You should know who these people are. Cato, they're these sort of right-wing, they call themselves libertarians, and they very openly will use the term libertarians about themselves, and then they start discussing how the government should regulate stuff and all these other things, which always cracks me up because this brings back the point I continuously make about how Republicans keep trying to call themselves libertarians because Republican and conservative have become bad words, and now they're trying to steal the word libertarian. And this is why I don't call myself a libertarian anymore. I call myself an anarcho-capitalist, even though the name of the society is still the Cynical Libertarian Society, because cynical anarcho-capitalist society doesn't sound as cool. CACS. Wait, cynical Anarcho-Capitalist Society, CACS. CACS. CAS? CACS. Anyway, has nothing to do with the fuck I'm supposed to be talking about. And I have some delicious, this is pomegranate white tea that I am drinking today. It's pretty good. Celestial Seasons. Speaking of Roosh, Roosh also just recently did a post on his website about making hot tea, and it was very good. It's very informative. I like hot tea. I don't know as much about hot tea as Roosh does, obviously, because I learned a lot of things from reading his post and made me see some of the bad habits I have whenever I make my hot tea. So if you are a enjoyer of hot tea, you should go over to rooshv.com and find his blog post on making hot tea and read it. You may learn some things. Or you may not. I don't know. Maybe you know as much as he does. In the Cato Daily Podcast, and I may have to take some time out in the future to make fun of this, they were talking about how the millennials had a favorable opinion of socialism because millennials don't actually know what socialism is. And I thought to myself, that's funny because they're the smartest generation ever and they have Google. Here's the thing about the millennials. They have all these cell phones. You don't even have to type things into Google anymore. You hold your phone up and you talk into it. You say, you say, definition of socialism. And then Google finds it and shows it to you. And whatever comes up on Google must be the right answer because it's on Google. And we know that everything on Google is true because it's Google. And Google is a multi-billion-dollar international corporation. And of course, the corporations are evil, unless of course they're Google, in which case you can believe anything Google tells you. And so they have the internet, and yet they're stupider than ever, and they're less free than ever. The internet does not lead to more freedom, because first of all, you can put a lot of effort into creating a repository of knowledge on the internet, a repository of your beliefs, your ideas, your concepts, your worldviews. You can use the internet to communicate with other people, and with one simple swipe, a corporation or the government can take all of that away from you, completely remove it. Via the internet, the corporations and the government can control the information you have access to. They can scrub information and make it disappear. And they can, of course, monitor all of your communications and information. Think back to, there's a really good movie I watched quite a time ago. I can't remember if I talked about it on this cast or not, and I cannot fucking remember the name of it. But it was about a man in East Germany back during the Cold War, and he worked for the Stasi, if I'm remembering the name right, the East German secret police. I think they were called the Stasi. And it was about him, spying on people and just doing what he did and everything. And this is the comparison I always like to make, is with the East German police. I mean, now that everything they were doing has been declassified, you can go there to I think they have a museum and stuff, and you can see all this stuff. And they went through everybody's letters, and they steamed mail open, and they did all this shit. And now the government can do all of those things, and the corporations can do all of those things thanks to the internet. You just hook a computer to the internet, and you suck information in, and you siphon through it using algorithms. The internet has made it easier than ever to spy on individuals, to find out their personal information, to find out what they're thinking, what they're saying. I mean, think about Facebook, the way Facebook, collects all this data on you. Of course, you have to put the data in, but Facebook collecting all this data. And of course, there's this idea that information that's not on the internet is invalid or does not exist. Now, of course, back in the old days when we all walked uphill to get information was inside books. And if you printed 1,000 books and then you distributed those 1,000 books, nobody could take those away. I mean, the government could send people out to try to find those copies of those books and burn them. But you have to physically go out. You have to physically locate the book. You have to physically go to where the book is. You have to physically find the book, get the book from the person who has it, and then set it on fire. Now, of course, with things like Amazon Kindle, Amazon simply does a few strokes on a computer, and the contents of a Kindle book are changed, and that change goes out to all the Kindle devices, and the book has been altered. It's 1984 news revision on steroids. The internet has not made us more free, contrary to what many of you stupid fucking people out there believe. The internet has made it easier than ever for the governments and the corporations to spy on people, to know what people are thinking, to know what people might do, to know what people's opinions are, to manipulate people, to control information. And while, yes, you can use the internet to get your dissenting viewpoint out, just as I do, just as Stefan Molyneux does, as Michael W. Dean does, as Aaron Cleary does, as Roosh does. It only takes a keystroke, and all of that is gone. Roosh's site could be gone in a heartbeat. My website could be gone in a heartbeat. Aaron Clary's YouTube channel could be gone in a heartbeat. Just bang, gone. Especially when you have the social justice warriors running around getting offended at everything, and you have both the government and the corporations being perfectly willing to cater to the lowest common denominator in our society. I mean, Aaron Clarey's video was removed from YouTube because one person flagged it. Out of 7 billion people on the planet Earth, one person was offended by this video. One fucking little piece of shit, fucking social justice warrior, got her fucking feelings hurt over this video, and the video was removed from YouTube. 7 billion people on the planet Earth. One person got this video removed from YouTube. That's called censorship. Living in a society where one person out of 7 billion can censor any piece of information you put on the internet is not freedom of speech, and it's not creating more freedom. It's creating less freedom, because now everything you do, you have to be terrified that there's one person out there. Now, obviously it doesn't apply to me. I don't sound very terrified. I mean, you've heard my podcast, like, for example, stating the obvious number 150, entitled Fuck You and Fuck Your Feelings, where I spend over an hour basically just screaming at statists about how they should be exterminated. Right? Obviously, I don't give a fuck because all my shit is backed up, and if my website gets shut down, I'll just buy an account with another hosting company and upload the shit all over again. But again, this is why I don't invest an excessive amount of time in social media like YouTube and Google Plus, which is dead anyway, and Facebook. And Twitter doesn't take a whole lot of time. And, of course, according to Roosh, this is all okay because Roosh wants more government to protect us from ourselves. So maybe that's part of Roosh's plan, to protect Aaron Clarey from himself by having his video taken off of YouTube by a social justice warrior. Okay. Where are my notes? After doing the last podcast and talking about Roosh's blog post, article, whatever you want to call it. You know, I keep saying that because I hate the word blog. I think I mentioned that already. And calling something a blog post is almost, in my mind, sort of an insult. Because again, a blog is something you write for common people. And so Roosh's thoughts, they may be wrong. They are wrong. His call for more statism is wrong. But they seem a level above what I would call a blog post. You know, a blog post is something people write as clickbait. Anyway, I'm shut the fuck up and move on. Yes, thank you. Randy, can you hear that? Is that coming over on the mic? Okay, good. If those of you out there do hear something, that's the sound of me scratching my head. All right. Speaking of idiots on YouTube, I've got to do some response episodes to comments on YouTube. I got to get around to that. I got to do a lot of things, man. It's summer in Fort Collins, and boy, I really don't want to be in the house or in the studio or inside anything. I took a little walk earlier today. Oh, it's beautiful outside. All right, here we are, though, in the studio doing this. All right, let me get on. Now, another thing that, after talking about Roosh's article in the previous episode, I was able to do some thinking about stuff I had said and things I'd read, and I realized that this was going to come up and I needed to get off my ass and make some distinctions here. Because I've talked about how all feminists are statists and all statists are feminists, but how that's contradictory because right-wing statists feminists are not right-wing, but you have right-wing statists. So yeah, I'm sitting down and I'm trying to think, okay, how am I really going to define these terms so that all of this resolves? When I say somebody is a statist, what exactly does that mean? Because we have to know exactly what that means. Because this, despite all the screaming and hollering and screaming out "fuck you" and fuck you cunt and suck my cock and lick my ass and Obama's cock and fuck you. This is a philosophy podcast, and I want to be precise about what I'm talking about when it's appropriate. And when it's appropriate, I just want to call people names. Well, right now I need to be precise. So when I say someone is a statist, that means, very simply, that this person violates the zero aggression principle or violates the property rights of other people. And it's that simple, and that's why I've said that you either are a statist or you are not. There's no, people, well, I'm just a little bit statist. Again, it's like, well, I'm just a little bit of a child molester, right? When I fuck 8-year-old boys, I only fuck an 8-year-old boy in the ass every 4 years, and I only stick the head of it in, right? I mean, you're still a child molester. So you can say, well, I'm blah, blah, blah. I vote for every 4 years, but that's it. No, you're still a fucking statist. It doesn't matter if you only occasionally engage in the statism. You're still a statist. So that's what a statist is. You violate the non-aggression principle, you violate the zero aggression principle, or you violate other people's property rights. So now what differentiates the femistatist from the statist? Because remember, I have said that there are right-wing statists, which there obviously are, and I have said there are femistatists, but I have said that all feminists are femistatists, but then I've said that there are no right-wing feminists. So there has to be something that separates the femistatist from the statist. And I've decided, here's the differentiation. Now the femistatist, of course, is someone who violates the zero aggression principle or violates property rights. But there's an additional thing happening with them that transforms them from a statist to a femistatist. And that is the femistatist specifically targets, I shouldn't say specifically targets, they target everyone. The femistatist places additional emphasis upon targeting heterosexual white men who work for a living. And this is all reduced, again, this is reduced to its very basic form. Because, well, there should be like 73 different things and criteria that must be met for a person to be a femistatist. No, all you just simply have to be a statist, and then you have to spend a more than ordinary, more than average, and excessive, you have to have a specific focus upon attacking, in addition to everyone else, because every femistatist is, of course, attacking all other humans. But you merely have to place an emphasis on attacking white heterosexual men who work for a living. And by attacking, I don't necessarily just mean physically attacking. I mean attacking them for being men, attacking them for accusing them of racism, sexism, homophobia, accusing them of all being rapists, yada, yada, yada. So back to Roosh. Because as I was thinking about this, Roosh is, of course, a feminist. That's kind of where I was going, actually. So I'm thinking about all this, and I'm thinking, okay, Roosh is, we know for a fact, Roosh is a statist. Hang on, I'm getting... Alright, I got distracted. It's my fault. We'll talk about distraction in a second. Where's the Roosh article? Roosh is obviously a statist. And I was prepared to call him a feminist because Roosh is exhibiting many of the same symptoms that feminists exhibit. Right? Feminists want the government to give them cradle-to-grave protection. Feminists want the government to make their decisions for them. This entire blog post, the one I'm talking about, if you haven't listened to the previous episode of Stating the Obvious, go fucking listen to it so you know what the hell's going on. His blog post, People Should Not Be Allowed Unlimited Personal Freedom. I mean, you can't get much more feminist than that. To sit here and say people should not have unlimited personal freedom. This is the goal of feminism, is to limit people's freedom. But it's also the goal of statism. So that's why I was trying in my mind to think, can I refer to Roosh and be intellectually honest about it as a femistatist, or is he simply a statist? And that's why I had to sit down and think hard, I said hard, about the great, we've gone there now. And to think long and hard about what differentiated the femistatist from the statist, so as to determine if Roosh is merely a statist or if he is a femistatist. So I've concluded he is not a femistatist because he does not put an emphasis upon attacking, punishing, blaming white heterosexual men who work for a living. So he is not a femistatist, but he is a statist. Now, in this post, we're going to back up a little bit because these are some thoughts I had after doing the last cast. Let me find what I'm looking for. I can't talk and read at the same time. Smart person would have looked for this information before the podcast started, but other than Randy, we don't have any smart people here. Alright, I found this part. Let's just jump ahead and do this. Sorry, I'm reading. Roosh, in this article, puts forth this idea that people, when they have unlimited freedom, he says, what happens if you give a woman freedom? She enslaves herself to her feelings, she enslaves herself to entertainment, attention from men, alcohol, food, crushing student loans she can't pay back, material possessions, and money. What happens when you give a man freedom? He enslaves himself to sex, corporate products, video games, to his own mirror image. And of course, his assertion is that we need more control over our lives to prevent us from enslaving ourselves to these things. Now, of course, we've had government control. For example, we had government prohibition over alcohol. Didn't stop people from drinking. We've had government prohibition over marijuana. Certainly hasn't stopped people from smoking dope. We have government prohibition over a whole range of things. And yet people still engage in these activities. Roosh, as statists are wont to do, seems to cling to this idea that not only can the government make the decisions about what is best for you, because of course Obama knows what's better for you than you do, because Obama is so much smarter than you are, but that once these decisions are made, you're going to obey them. You are going to be sitting there and you're going to say, man, I really would love to snort some cocaine right now, but God, cocaine is illegal, so I'm not going to do it. Right? This woman would love this. Roosh thinks that this woman is going to sit here. She's going to say, wow, I really would like to just spend the entire day. I mean, so he says here, she enslaves herself to entertainment, attention from men, and other things. Okay, so this woman, they're going to make it, what, illegal for you to watch more than 2 episodes of Orange is the New Black in the same day? Because this is a thing with women now is, what do you do? And I'm talking to some chick, and I'm like, what do you do? I watch Netflix. I mean, this is an activity for women now. Sitting on your fucking fat ass watching Netflix is now considered an activity by women. What are you going to make it illegal for them to watch more than 2 episodes of Orange is the New Black? And so in Roosh's world, women, when they have too much freedom, seek attention from men. Are you going to make it, I'm sorry, is Obama, your messiah, going to make it illegal for women to seek attention from men? And how exactly will this be enforced? Will there be police officers following the women around to make sure they're not seeking attention from men? And if the police officers are following these women around and monitoring them, if these police officers happen to be men, would that not mean that these women are receiving attention from men? And would that not violate the law? I mean, the absurdity of what he's saying here is completely invisible to him because his statism is so deep that he cannot see the simple truth that governments cannot protect people from their own stupidity. And they should not. This is the argument I've been making on this podcast for years. Not only can governments not protect people from their own stupidity, governments should not protect people from their own stupidity because people should not be protected from their own stupidity because when you protect people from their own stupidity, you circumvent natural selection and evolution, which is exactly where we are right now. Thank you, democracy. Because, as I've said before, a democracy cannot exist without stupid people. If you don't have a society filled with stupid people that cannot provide for themselves, then you have no need for government. In a society where everyone is competent, no one needs government. And so even if the government could, and we know they probably could because Obama used to be a motherfucking community organizer, he is the Messiah. Even if the Messiah, Hussein Obama, could, as Roosh wants him to do, make everybody's decisions for them so that they never make any mistakes, Obama wouldn't do that because Obama needs dumb people to support him. I mean, if Obama's going to fix your life so you never make any mistakes, then he would have to fix your life such that you would not vote for him because he's a mistake. You can't save people from themselves. There's a mechanism for doing that. It's called natural selection. Now, somewhere in here, as soon as I find it, blah, 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 I gotta read. So, Roosh asserts that, of course, too much personal freedom is the problem. Then in here he writes, I first looked at the behavior of people in America, because Roosh doesn't understand that we live in a country called the United States. America is the continent, but then again, I know this is really complicated shit. since culturally they have the most freedoms out of any other world citizen to pursue whatever lifestyle they want. So Roosh says that too much personal freedom is the problem, and that here in the United States we have more personal freedom than anybody else. Well, more, I mean, not put words in his mouth, more freedom to pursue whatever lifestyle we want. So if this is true, then countries that have more government control, less personal freedom, should have better citizens, right? So we could, for example, look at the quality of citizens in North Korea, Communist China, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany. Of course, here in the United States, black slaves didn't have much freedom. Maybe we should emulate that lifestyle in Roosh's worldview, because, my, we'd all be fucking moral giants if we were slaves. It's bizarre to me, and part of the reason why I'm picking on Roosh here is, as I said in the previous cast, Roosh is a smart guy. And yet, and a perceptive guy. I mean, again, I'm sitting here right now ripping on him, but when I say that you should read his writings, that you should subscribe to his website, I mean, I RSS it because it's easier, whatever. Go to his website, read his writings. He's intelligent, articulate, he sees things, he has fantastic ideas. I'm going to talk about more of them because there's a bunch of posts. He's also going on a summer hiatus. He just posted that he's taking some time off. I'm going to be talking about Roosh for a number of podcast episodes after this because he's a very perceptive, smart guy. But even as smart as he is, he can't fucking see past statism. And this goes back to why, as I've said before, there are other anarcho-capitalists like, well, we can educate people, we can convince people. I don't believe that. I don't. Honest to fucking God that doesn't exist, don't believe it. You're either born an anarcho-capitalist or you're not. I've said it before. I think there is a motherfucking genetic brain chemistry related, there is something different about us that allows us to see through the bullshit. Now, you, as I've said before, not everybody knows they're an anarcho-capitalist because you're never told about this stuff in school. You're thrown all the bullshit. We have to keep talking about this and throwing it into the world so that the people who are anarcho-capitalist but don't know it discover us and figure out who they are. But the idea you can take someone who is, who understands, who has heard these concepts and rejected them, and if you just throw enough evidence at this person, one day they're going to go, oh wow, like Obama. There's no amount of evidence you can throw at Obama or Bush. I saw something just on Twitter, George Bush, G.W. Bush 2, has an approval rating of over 50% or something. I mean, first of all, who gives a fuck? But I mean, or Bush, or Obama, or Bush, or Clinton, and like you can go to these people and somehow convince them that statism is wrong. You can't do it. This is my point. Roosh is a smart guy, but he'll never be an anarcho-capitalist because he has brain damage. Let me get back to Roosh's article. Some of you reading this right now would be better off being required to follow established rules, traditions, traditional or heuristic, when it comes to how you live so that you reach your potential and keep yourself out of harm's way, at least until you are able to build the high wall defenses in your mind to being enslaved. Who exactly in this world of Roosh's would determine when you've reached your potential, when the walls are there? How, again, this all sounds very highfalutin, and this is something that comes to me, from all the philosophy classes I've sat through, is you hear this kind of highfalutin shit like this. But as soon as you start talking about practical questions like, how does this actually implemented? Well, that doesn't matter, right? Now, of course, this comes from the same people, the statists, who if you say to them, we should have a free society, they will immediately say, who will build the roads? Because in the statist world, building a road, a flat space on the ground, with some fucking asphalt on it, is so fucking complex that it cannot be done without the government. And yet the same people who believe that and expect you to be able to, when you say anarcho-capitalist society, they expect you to be able to have this entire fucking outlined plan of who's building the roads and who's controlling air traffic, who's providing for the poor. You're supposed to have, and there's one question you can't answer. They're like, see, it's not going to work. These same people believe that there is an entity out there. It would be the government, of course, because there's no other entity that can do this. Excuse me. And some of you are saying, well, what about, well, hold on, as we keep reading, Roosh is going to reject the family and all this other stuff. Excuse me, not reject. He's going to point out that they have failed, which I agree with. And again, this is what I'm talking about when I say Roosh is a smart guy. Roosh, as a statist, believes that the government is going to be able to establish rules which will help you reach your potential. And the government, having established these rules that help you reach your potential, is going to be able to enforce these rules upon everyone and then determine when you have built the high wall defenses in your mind to being enslaved, and then perhaps at that point stop enforcing the rules on you. I don't know. I mean, we have rules that people under the age of 18 can't smoke cigarettes for their own good, yet somehow or another they get cigarettes. There are rules about you can't drink alcohol if you're under 21 because somebody somewhere determined that was bad for you and 21 was the magic cutoff age. And yet I see 18-year-old kids with beer in their hand every fucking weekend. Back to reading. I would have personally benefited from such rules, or at least a hands-on mentorship, as recently as my late 20s. And yes, most of us would benefit from mentorship. Mentorship is vastly different from rules being imposed by the government. And mentorship is why I'm constantly talking about Aaron Clarey and telling you should be buying his book, Worthless, his book, Bachelor Pad Economics. You should be watching his YouTube channel, reading Captain Capitalism, because Aaron Clarey is one of the best mentors for young men I can think of. If there was a way to do it, if I could suck Obama's cock and swallow 3 gallons of his cum, and that would enable me to somehow or another get Aaron Clarey's YouTube channel and his books and send those back in time to me when I was a 16-year-old kid, I would fucking swallow that 3 gallons of cum. Aaron Clarey, when I was 16 years old, would have changed my life. It's too late now. I've missed it. And it's why you hate people. No, I don't fucking hate people. I don't fucking hate you. I want you to fucking... That's why I tell people, you're an idiot. Go read Aaron Clarey's book. It's not because I hate you. It's because I'm trying to fucking save you from your own goddamn stupidity. Because I know you're 16. You think you know everything. I was 16 too. Shut the fuck up and listen to old people. Listen to some old people. Don't listen to all old people. You got to be selective about which old people you listen to. What's that? Am I really? Where are we on time? Great. Randy's pointing out I babbled so fucking long that we're in danger of not. I'm in danger of not finishing this, and I was going to finish this. All right, yes. I'll focus. Thank you. Back to reading. While humans must make mistakes to learn, build confidence, and find their own path, it is needless to let people travel so far in the wrong direction that they either don't have the ability to return or are irreparably damaged by their grotesque experimentation. And again, this is where Roosh is wrong. No, it is not needless to let people travel that far. It is needless to let people travel that far and then not allow them to die off. It is needless to allow people to get in debt $80,000 for a fucking English diploma and to stick piercings in their face and get a shit ton of tattoos and then get pregnant, and then you give them welfare and food stamps and child support. That's the needless part. The part where they go in debt and have fucking piercings and can't get food to feed themselves, that's the part where they die off and their DNA is removed from the gene pool and you have the smart people left. The needless part is doing what Roosh wants to do and protect these people from themselves with a giant government bureaucracy funded by heterosexual white men who work for a living. Maybe Roosh is a femistatist because he's sitting here saying he wants the government to make all these decisions for people, yet all of this enforcement of these government decisions being made from everybody has to be paid for financially, economically. It has to be paid for by a group of people. What group of people will that be? It will primarily be heterosexual white men who work for a living, and the small number of women who actually work for a living. Those of us who actually create value, generate economic activity, a category I'm proud to say that I'm actually in. Maybe Roosh is a motherfucking femistatist, because in expecting all of this to happen, he is what's the word I'm looking for? Placing an emphasis on targeting heterosexual white men who work for a living, because we're the ones who have to pay for all this government fucking bureaucracy that makes all these decisions for people so they don't fucking remove their DNA from the gene pool. Okay, let me keep reading so we can wrap this up before Randy kicks my ass and removes my DNA from the gene pool. See, here we go. I could fucking piss Randy off. Well, maybe there should be a law against me pissing Randy off, right? There should be a law against me pissing you off. But no, see, instead there's just, if I piss her off, she kills me, my DNA's gone from the gene pool. That's how natural selection works. And so since I don't want to die, I don't fucking piss her off. Sometimes. All right. Go back to reading. I'm currently living in a country that has changed greatly over the past 20 years from the days of communist repression when... Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I don't know what country he's talking about. I always want to check something out. Poland. Okay. I thought he was talking about in America when he said, I'm currently living in a country. I thought he was referencing America. He means Poland. I'm currently living in a country that has changed greatly over the past 20 years from the days of communist repression when freedoms were limited to now nearly unlimited personal freedom for people to look, act, live, and behave the way they want. I can see firsthand how this freedom has merely transformed citizens from being enslaved to the government to being enslaved by alcohol, vulgar sexual vices, Hollywood-style entertainment, and corporations selling them shiny products, all while enabling them to adopt lifestyles that will cause long-term harm to themselves and their society. Here you have it. Here Roosh is pining for the good old days of communism, when the government owned people and they couldn't buy shiny products and they couldn't drink alcohol. Right, because when the communists were there, nobody drank alcohol and nobody had sexual vices. Now, there may not have been Hollywood-style entertainment and corporations selling them shiny products, but that's because they were all living in poverty. I mean, here Roosh is openly sitting here saying, wow, weren't the good old communist days wonderful? There's some statism for you, boys and girls. Holy shit. The good old days of communism. Yep, that's what's going to make America better, if we could get some communism in here. Most humans are not capable of wisely using their freedom, so they must be restrained and managed by rules or by those who know what's best for that individual more than the individual himself. There's statism in a motherfucking sentence. In the past, this restraint took place with those who had a sincere investment in the person's well-being, such as family, the tribe, the village, and the local church. But these restraints are long gone, released in the cultural chaos of the post-enlightenment world. Yeah, God, if only we didn't have fucking enlightenment. If only we could go back to the good old days. He's with a general trend of increasing personal freedom around the planet, the only logical result is a steadfast mental and behavioral decline of humanity. Unless people are limited in the personal decisions they're able to make, they will continue to hurt themselves and others. Yes, unless people are limited in the personal decisions they're able to make. No, my God. Again, how... Here we are, just fucking masturbating to the idea of total government control over everybody's personal freedom for their own good. Have you ever heard, yes you have indeed heard this kind of statism before. But this shit is terrifying, and this shit is all the more terrifying coming from someone as smart as Roosh is. And if somebody as smart as him can't fucking figure this out. That's why I am the cynical libertarian society. This is why I have no hope. I agree with Roosh on this. There's no hope. I mean, everything's going to shit. He says we're heading for a decline. Of course we're heading for a decline. Because there's people like him out there who are so desperate to have the state protect people from evolution and from natural selection. Because Roosh, like any statist, is afraid. He's afraid people are going to make decisions that are bad for them. And yeah, they are. And we should let them. And we should let them pay the price for making those bad decisions.